Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Mono e Mono, the show where we pit two fictional characters against one another and have them fight to the death in the pit. And today, well, we're talking about two pretty interesting characters. One you might actually see already in the background here. But anyway, Joe, who are our combatants?
I love that little hint, Jimmy. I love it. Tonight is fight night on Critical Reviews. In the red corner, we have the mysterious, the one and only, the 220-pound, 6'2" hammer, Tony Masters, aka Taskmaster. In the blue corner, we have the towering, the dreadful, 6'4", 225-pound slaying machine, Slade Wilson, aka Deathstroke.
Ba-da-ba! You used to do that, and I was enjoying. There we go. Excellent. That's right. We've got these amazing combatants today.
You don't mean to break character or anything, Jimmy, but I'm sweating after that one. Oh.
You did a great job, man. They should hire you. I think that you'd be good for fight nights and stuff, man.
I've done a bit of voice acting.
Yes, I mean it shows clearly, obviously.
Thanks for having me, by the way.
Oh, dude, you're always here, man. We gotta have you.
Always fun. Pay per view.
Yeah, well, thank you for being here. So tonight we're talking about these two legends, these two mercenaries. These guys, these are hired killers. Like we were talking, Deathstroke, he's here. Taskmaster is here. Look at that picture. It looks so good.
Yeah, who got the hint right off the bat? You said one of them you may see in the background here. Everybody was like, oh, it's that one.
Yeah, that or they were like, is it Mustang or Wolverine? Like, you know, is it Altair? No, it's not Altair. Or Venom. Kind of a weird Venom. He's more of like the Topher Gracie Venom. I don't know why. I was like, is that really? Anyway, so yes, we're talking about these two tonight. We're gonna have them fight to the death in the pit. For people who've watched the show before, the pit is pretty standard. Just like think like old school gladiatorial arena style, big kind of cage over the top of it. They can't get out. Maybe a few rocks here and there, kind of like a red clay pit. Just have them come out, fight to the death. They see each other and they're gonna fight. They know that they have to kill the other one. That's just how it goes. That's how it goes when you get in the pit. So I'm gonna run down a few of the things that make these guys special, okay? Because there's a few things.
Jimmy, let's start with Taskmaster.
That's what I was thinking. You're definitely right.
I gotta request it myself because I feel like of the two, he's the most little known.
Yeah, they're both kind of more niche, but I would say that Taskmaster is more so. Unless you're like a Marvel vs. Capcom 3 kind of person, then you're like, I know Taskmaster. Or if you played Spider-Man and that sort of thing. So Taskmaster, interesting character. The coolest thing about this guy is that he kind of integrates a lot of different weapons and styles into his own fighting style. He does this via his photographic reflex. Basically what he does, kind of like our boy Sasuke here, like the Sharingan, he can watch somebody do something and then quickly, like if he can physically do that as well, he can copy it perfectly. This doesn't mean that if he sees the Hulk pick up a car, that he could pick up a car. But if he sees Captain America do like a double backflip and he can physically do like a double backflip just like Cap, he can do that too.
Yeah, so when you think of his build, think about Captain America.
Yeah, I do.
That's kind of how he looks.
Exactly.
A bad captain.
Captain. Kind of like this interesting. I also really like his design too. He's got like the cape, the hood, the mask, the shield, the sword. He has a bow to kind of be like Hawkeye because he knows how to fight like Hawkeye, like Cap, like Spider-Man. He's integrated that into him. And that's what makes him such a fearsome combatant, is that he's watched and fought all these superheroes and he's like integrated their fighting styles into himself, which is really cool. The biggest drawback of all this, it doesn't really matter with this fight. He has amnesia. And he usually, when he learns like a new fighting style, like his short-term memory has been heightened like crazy, but his long-term memory, not so good. One of the things
really interesting. So
he was a prior Shield agent.
Yeah.
And so was his wife.
Yep.
Which is really interesting. So he came upon a serum that the what do they call them? It's the not the Third Reich was trying to create a new.
Oh, we're talking about Hydra?
Hydra, yeah. And they broke it in. They were taking down this experimental group, and I think he ended up injecting himself with the serum for. What was the serum itself? It was like a developmental thing for good memory, or
Was it to be like, I think that's what it was, and then because he's like wanting to always be the best.
Yeah,
he was just like, he found it and he's like, I'm just gonna take this right now.
Yeah, it was like a mind enhancement, and it had a good effect but also a bad effect. So it was a double-edged blade, one edge poisoned. The poison is what Jimmy's talking about, is in the amnesia. He can't remember long-term things. And all this was through good intentions, which is the kicker about it. But he could, he had his how do you call it again?
Photographic reflexes is what I've been seeing.
Photographic reflexes, yeah. So like a photographic memory, but a little more advanced.
See, like, this would have come in handy like a ton in college, Joe. Because like, think about like a test or something right before you went in. You're like, I don't study. I study like 5 minutes before, and then you like open the book and you just like go through it really quick, and you're just like, cool, I know it all. And then like after the test, you're just like, I don't need to hold on to it. Like,
yeah, exactly. It's almost like it's not like you're super smart necessarily. You're just super. You can process things quickly.
Yes. Yeah. Which makes him really good at that, but also, his ability to like look and study other heroes before fighting them and kind of keeping that with him, that's pretty good too. So he holds on to some of this stuff. We shouldn't say it's all gone, but mostly like his memories of like his wife and stuff. He's like, I don't really remember you.
And that's a thing. When his good intentions are still apparent, he's paired up with her still, and they through a series of complex processes, they're able to keep his long-term memory reestablished through like refreshers, and to remember that they're married and all that. And then, but eventually, every time he uses his power, he forgets more and more. It becomes harder to go back, and I think that's when the kind of turn to the dark side starts to happen. Right?
Yeah, that's true. It also seems like for what I saw in the very beginning, like his introduction, is he was like the guy who ran like the school or academy, as it would be kind of called, where like they got all their henchmen from. Like he trained a bunch of henchmen, and I was like, that's kind of an interesting thing, like to kind of answer that question, because it's always like, why do you have like 1,000 henchmen? Where did they come from?
He was training henchmen, and if they were smarter, actual villains. And think of Hogwarts for bad people.
Yeah, dude, really good way of putting that. That's so. He's
Dumbledore.
Yep, he's Dumbledore. He's like, there's only one house here.
No one knew it until what? It's interesting because I watched this like historical thing or build up on him, and it actually was it was well laid out. It really divulged everything that you needed to know, and essentially like the Avengers stumbled upon this academy because of some. It was disguised as a mental institution, and they followed this one person who was like trying to set traps for them, and it turned out they weren't a mental patient. They were just a student of this academy. And when they stumbled upon it, it was like the wasp disappeared. So the Avengers showed up, and that's how they all meet. The leader of the academy is in Taskmaster. So very interesting. Very interesting. He was the super brain behind it all, and rightfully so, I guess. So.
Yeah, he. The other cool thing that's interesting about him is that he technically doesn't have any superpowers. I see, what I've been reading here is that he has some, like, he can have little bursts of like superhuman speed, but he's kind of think Batman, peak physical human. Like he's that like the best of human could be, and he can sometimes surpass that just a little bit. But he's not at a consistent level like a Captain America would always be like like a bit stronger like than any human would
Yeah,
typically be.
that's the thing, and they've encountered each other in the past, and it's like, yeah, the thing that puts Cap above that is like he's got a super serum that makes him like inhuman. So
Yeah, he's ridiculous. Yep. So
the
that means
the
that
only thing that makes Taskmaster inhuman, keep in mind, is that he can essentially mimic or fight in the same manner as Captain could, but the strength difference is still there.
Yep, and the fact that he will tire eventually, that's one thing about Cap. Not that we have to compare him directly to Cap, but you'll see where the Deathstroke comparisons come in, is that Cap, because of his serum, doesn't I don't exactly remember what it is, but he doesn't have the same buildup of exhaustion that a normal person would have. So if you fight and you're with Taskmaster long enough, Taskmaster will start to slow down because he's like one of us.
Yeah,
and so that's
not going to be able to do it forever, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Where Cap's heart is like super up. Think of the most roided out heart you've ever seen.
Yeah, it's huge. But yeah, he's got incredible reflexes, and obviously his ability to have that photographic reflex plays into his ability to predict movements. Again, like the Sharingan here, where you can be like, okay, I've seen this kick before, and if someone's doing that kick again, you can be like, okay, I know that's I can deal with that, which is really cool.
Really interestingly, Jimmy, you know what immediately comes to mind when I was learning about Taskmaster is I immediately think of Captain America Civil War. The Iron Man and Captain America fight where Iron Man's losing the Captain America in the hand-to-hand, and eventually Tony wises up and says, we need to study his movements, and the computer is analyzing every move he does and patterns and things. And the second that they get that data and input it into the suit's movements, it's an automatic fighting back and counteracting. So that's what in my mind, I'm like, okay, that's a good power to have, because you can now put yourself on that same scale as that person.
Yeah.
Balance of scales, which is, it's an impactful power when you look at it in through that set of glasses.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, especially if he had the ability to get, if he had an Iron Man suit on top of all that, or something to, really play ball in, a higher league, which would be crazy. And I think back to that, by the way, I always think, Tony must not have ever thought Cap was a real threat, because after, the Hulk and the Hulkbuster stuff, he made stuff to, counteract him. But in that moment, he was like, oh, I didn't have, the Captain America fight, program ready and to go. He's like, I got to make this on the fly. He's like, scan his movements.
Well, and why would you until that moment?
Yeah.
Because, Cap's a Boy Scout.
Yeah, exactly. You wouldn't think that he'd be all crazy. But anyway, besides all those things, strengths and weaknesses, Taskmaster is also, he's an energy shield. He's got this really cool sword. He uses a bow and arrow like Hawkeye. So he's got some stuff. He's got a ton of stuff here. I'm looking at, he's a pair of 45s. It's really funny when people list this stuff off. It's like he has a rope.
He's got two revolvers.
Yeah, he's packing guns, man. He's got a lot. Multi-purpose billy club. Like Daredevil. Okay, I was like, yeah, because he likes to he's kind of the copy guy, which makes him pretty dangerous.
I don't know how he carries all this stuff around.
Yeah, he must have like a sack or something. He's
it's like Felix the cat's little travel bag. It just keeps taking things out of there.
Reminds me of the Green Goblin. I think it's called the Bag O' Tricks, because he used to have this back in the 90s cartoon. He had a big purple gym bag, basically. Every time I put my gym bag on, I'm pretending the Green Goblin. But he has a big purple bag that he has with him, and he's always grabbing in there and pulling out the perfect bomb. Are all these explosives just smashing against each other in this bag when he's not? He's just it's you never know what you're gonna pull out of there. He's just take this. Which I love you, Green Goblin. All right, let's move over to Slade Wilson, aka Deathstroke. Now, before we get into it, I have to say, I did a video on him a long time ago. I want a video game. He deserves a video game himself, but I'm biased towards Deathstroke. I will say that up front, but I want to keep this as fair as possible. It's not who I love the most. It's who I think would really win.
Your thoughts in that video on the Deathstroke video game, possible video game, were actually very well thought out. I was impressed. I think I was like, that probably would be pretty cool.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And it's pretty old. Like that video, I was looking back at it, I'm like, oh, my audio quality isn't super good, and there's like a lot of still images and stuff. But I was like, I'm happy I made that because it was like, it was a passion project for me, and I really do.
For that one, it doesn't really matter. It was just well done.
Well, thank you. Thanks for watching it.
What mattered was the content itself, what you were saying. So.
Yeah. Well, I just look at other games and I think like, man, they really could do something with this. And they were for a while. They were going to do a Suicide Squad game, and then I think it got forced into maybe a Deathstroke game, but I don't know if any of that stuff's taken off now, because I think Suicide Squad, the movie, not doing, like, it did well, but I don't think it was like really loved. I just don't know game-wise if they're going to do anything with that. But anyway, Deathstroke. Another mercenary, but his super soldier serum, kind of like Captain America's, gave him some incredible abilities. We're talking super strength, super speed. He is abnormal. He's not like everybody else. The thing that really sets him apart, kind of like the photographic reflexes for Taskmaster, the thing, his kind of his best thing, really, his best ability is his ability to use, they say, 90% of his brain, but it basically means that he is usually thinking 5 to 9 or 10 steps ahead of most people. Like, his brain is working that fast. So he's kind of like a chess champion or something, where he's like kind of like, okay, I'm looking into the future and I'm trying to predict all of this stuff, which usually means that as a mercenary, he's usually prepping beforehand, and he's kind of figuring out what his targets are going to do before they do them. And kind of playing into that. So that makes him very devastating, especially once in a while when he gets like a hold of a super weapon that he can go toe-to-toe with, like a Superman with. Because you take someone like Superman, who is just like, you can kind of bully his way through most fights because he's freaking Superman. And then you have someone who like knows how literally to like really hand-to-hand fight somebody, and then it's like, oh, this kind of changes the game. He doesn't have those super swords with this, though. I don't want him to be. This is just like what they would come in with regularly. I don't want them to, either one to have that. He doesn't have
the what?
He doesn't have his like super crazy like Superman killing swords or whatever those ones are called. He gets like special swords.
Explain further. What are they?
So he gets a hold of these swords. I forget what comic line this is, but he basically can go like toe to toe and fight Superman with them. I don't know if they like imbue him too, but like he becomes really insanely powerful with it. He's nuts, man. Deathstroke's crazy, and single-handedly, without Superman or Wonder Woman being there. Was Batman there? I don't know if Batman's there. It was like Green Lantern, Hawkgirl, Zatanna, is that mm-hmm. He took on the Justice League by himself. There was one moment he fought the Flash, like he fought all of them at the same time by himself. Really crazy. It doesn't last super long, but he does pretty well against them. It's one of my favorite things is he predicts where the Flash is going to be, and he like puts his sword like right here, and the Flash like just stabs himself. He's just like, when he does that, it's like,
oh, that's cool.
It's like, oh my god, like that right to me that's like the whole Superman fight in Justice League, where it's like these little things where you're like, how do you beat the Flash? And you're like, I just have to predict where he's going to be. Don't hit him where he is, hit him where you think he could be. If you just be like that. Like,
yeah, that's cool.
Deathstroke's great. Another thing that he has, not exactly is the same as Wolverine, but he has an accelerated healing factor. So that means that he can heal up over time. It's not like one of those...
Metabolism's boosted, all that sort of stuff.
Yep.
Speed everything up.
Yep. So again, he doesn't tire like a normal person would either. The durability, all that stuff is all there as well. Typically what he's packing, like bow staff, sword, guns, usually SMGs, things like that. Grenades, kind of what you would...
Tactical military-esque, but with a little more original to it with the swords and stuff. So.
Yeah, his biggest weakness is he has rage issues. He has lost one of his eyes as well. So if you do stab...
zero depth perception.
Yeah, he's just like... like the only reason he stabbed Flash is because he was trying to do like a good stab, and he just completely whiffed, and he still got him. He's like, I meant to do this. So he lost his eye a long time ago to his ex-wife. Exes. That'll happen. But so he has an eye patch over, I believe it's his... I should probably not just guess on this one. We should know this. This is his right eye that he has the eye patch over, But if he does get, like when he fought the Justice League, he's fighting everyone. I think Green Arrow ends up like stabbing him in the eye, and he like loses it. And when he gets enraged, then that's where the problems happen, because he stops being like really intelligent and all that stuff kind of... Yeah, it's like Hulk, where he stops. It's not like, oh, this is a creative way to fight. He's just he's
The
bad.
expression is rage blur.
Oh, by the way, Joe, I looked up God Killer swords. They were made by Hephaestus, very Greek god. Yeah. Mm-hmm. He took these swords to go out and kill Lepidus. So that's like high level mercenary job right there. He's like, how many?
DC has a lot of reference or ties to Greek gods to kind of justify the power and level of their characters.
Kind of, and Marvel has it too. For some odd reason, a lot of them just decided, I think the comic, and I'm not saying I'm a creator in that sense, but I think if you make so many characters, eventually you're just let's just look at a Greek or god pantheon and just start pulling from there. Be like, where's Hercules or whatever? Just put Hercules as a superhero.
The one thing I like about it is, mythology's always held a pretty prominent place in human culture, period. So, in a sense, it's like if a character's created and science doesn't explain it, and if it's more of a mystical fashion or just was or existed or just was, maybe it's more religious related. And in a weird way, that makes it seem more grounded and plausible than if you just said they just were in the, So it's either like science or something mystical of that sense, and that kind of ties it back to Greek gods. I like that connection. I think if you're gonna do it, it's a good way to go. It's all right.
Yeah,
we saw it with Wonder Woman in her standalone movie.
That's true. That's true. Like Ares and all that. I like to think that the superheroes we have are kind of like America's own mythos of a pantheon of gods. I mean, we don't worship them in the same way, obviously, but kind of in that way.
For yourself.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I can't. To be honest though, kind of. I mean, look at me, look behind me. There's a ton of. It's not like you're oh, look at all the crosses Jimmy has. It's no. It's just look at all the.
Jimmy wakes up in the morning, looks at the wall, and he's like, "Good morning, fellas."
Exactly. Well, usually I've got Aragorn from Return of the King always staring up at bed. So some days I'll just look at him and be like, always watching over me, King of Gondor over there. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate that.
So we went on a bit of a tangent there, but I think it was.
That's happens. Yeah, man. If the river of conversation, a tangent is a tributary. You just got to work your way back up and get back on the main drag and remember what you're talking about.
Main river. Yeah.
Last thing I wanted to mention here is that we got to talk about Deathstroke's suit just a smidge. It's called the Icon suit. It's made of Promethean metal. It's incredibly strong, and it hardens up specific areas of the suit to protect the user from impacts and bullets and stuff. So that makes him really good against a group of SWAT team, because he can just be yeah, you could shoot me, but it's not you're not gonna. Really
the Black Panther suit, it can take all the hits and absorb that energy, but it's not vibranium.
But it's close though, Joe, because if I'm reading this correctly and I remember correctly, he has had enough energy absorption to endure punches from Superman. Not that Superman is trying to kill him, but I think back to Batman. Not that this needs to be this stupid, Batman vs Superman, when he's gonna go punch Batman and that punch gets blocked. It's got to be strong enough. He's not gonna take old Bruce's head off, and if he wanted to, he probably could have done it without Bruce even seeing it, because he's freaking Superman. But I'd imagine those punches are still pretty strong. If he's I just want to put you down, I just need to knock you out, just be but if he's block that, and it's it's oh, okay. So that's pretty cool.
I hate to get on a tangent, and I'm going to leave it at this, but that's the hard thing about Superman to bring to reality is that, him fighting Batman just doesn't even line up in any world. Unless there's kryptonite involved, which, yeah, there was, but I mean, let's face it, initially all he had to do was it could be a snap of a finger and gone.
Yeah, it's because he's a good guy, but Batman wins because he's Batman. Yeah. Because he's Batman, he always wins.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, because Superman's a good guy, he walks up to him. Yeah. Stupid.
My trick to beating Batman, though, just yell Martha. Apparently that's his weakness. He's what?
Even if your mother's name isn't Martha, pretend it is.
I wish they would just make that an on-running joke in these movies. Like, get Ben Affleck back in, get Jared Leto's Joker, and he finds out about this, and he's just like, "Oh, I hear that you've got some problems with your mommy." You know, he's like, "What did you just say?" And he's like, "Is her name Martha?" And he's like, "How'd you know that name?" Like, he'll stop whatever he's doing.
In shock, he'll just crumble.
It'll be like in Batman Begins when he's just screaming for Alfred. He's Alfred, someone said Martha, Alfred. Like, be great.
How do they know? Did you tell them? I thought you were the only one who knew.
And then everybody just knows from now on. There's just more meetings, even with Bruce Wayne. Someone's like, "Oh, and your mother Martha Wayne," and he's like, "How did you know her, dude? She helped make the company." You know, he's like, "Huh?" Bruce Wayne just gets triggered.
So,
back to Taskmaster and Deathstroke. But yes, okay.
Great.
So these two fighting to the death. Joe, for you don't really have as much of a pony in this race. Because like I said, I'm trying to get my bias out of it. It's hard to do it 100%. But what do you think? How do you think this fight's going to play out? Is it quick? Is it a longer fight? What's going on here?
I think it might be. So you say, is it quick or is it long? It's somewhere in between there. It's somewhere in between there for sure. I think the interesting part is, here's the thing. They're both very similar in that Taskmaster's ability is pretty much what Deathstroke is built to, like, it's like a rock and a hard place button heads.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you really think about it, Taskmaster is studying and copying everything Slade Wilson does or Deathstroke does, but Slade Wilson is smart enough to know that already because he's 9 steps ahead, and he's like, okay, I'm going to do things that he's never seen before, or do things that are so unpredictable he can't adjust to them.
Well, and they don't know about each other previously to this fight, so he might not know right away that that's what he's doing.
Okay. Good counter. I like you. You're a good devil's advocate, you know.
Yeah, and that's why I think the longer it goes on, Taskmaster has more of a chance because he starts to see that. However, there's a part of me that starts thinking, if I'm Slade and I know me really, really well, and this guy's trying to counter me with me, I'm going to do the things that I know that I would have a problem with. Like, that's how I would think if I were Slade. I'd be like, if I'm going to fight me, this prodigious warrior.
What's my greatest weakness? I'm going to go against him with that method.
Yeah, and he can't do the eye thing, you know, like he's not going to stab him in the same. He's going to be like,
not that, or go for the rage thing. Although that's never a bad tactic when fighting somebody, is get them so angry that they don't think.
Yep.
Because that's something that anyone will have problems with, even if they don't have an anger problem. So
one of the biggest other flaws the Taskmaster apparently sometimes has is when he starts fighting someone he's never met before. He can get kind of caught up in the moment, and he can really enjoy that he's fighting someone he's learning from. But sometimes he can be very cocky. And if he runs into Deathstroke here and he's kind of just like, oh, I freaking know. I'm like Captain America and Spider-Man and Hawkeye put together. I know all this stuff. And Deathstroke's like, I don't know who you're talking about. Like, he'd be like, who's that? I don't know. Have I killed them? Like, Deathstroke just be like, yeah, I'm going to kill you right now. So that's why I think if Taskmaster really can't learn that quickly what he's really dealing with, then it could be over pretty quick, because it might be like kind of like a flash, and it'd be like, oh, what the heck? Like, Deathstroke's already on him, just like stabbing him, just like, oh my gosh, and very strong. Like, Deathstroke's he's a pretty ripped dude, because he's cheap.
That's the problem with Deathstroke, is I think he gets a little bit of an advantage, because the same way Captain America. Sorry, my mind's on Captain Marvel, coming up soon.
Yeah, we can't wait. In theaters in March, not sponsored.
The same way Captain America would have a slight advantage over Taskmaster, even though, inability, like being able to counter each other and mimic each other is there. That strength factor is amplified on Deathstroke's side or Captain America's side. So I think Deathstroke has a bit of an advantage with that. How much of an advantage does that give him? I don't know. I mean, yeah, okay, if Taskmaster knows, okay, this move I can take care of that fine, or I'll do the same thing, or and we'll cancel out. But the blow that if Deathstroke lands a blow, it's going to be a painful one, right?
Yeah, that's the thing where I think that's the moment I think Taskmaster starts taking it really seriously. Because I was looking into some of this other stuff, and they've shown that, and it always changes because every fight is different, but like the Punisher fought Taskmaster and landed a few really good strong hits in there, and it's like, and Punisher is like, again, kind of like peak physical human condition, but he doesn't have all that stuff that Deathstroke has on top of it. So it's like if Deathstroke really moves in quick, and I don't know if both these guys, does it start with they're both, pulling out guns, or Taskmaster shooting the bow and they're running at each other and then they pull out swords.
Yeah.
That's when I think the fight looks cool. I think it's gonna look sweet.
If it boils down to swords, I mean, let's look at the weaponry for a quick second. Swords are going to be probably the last thing to come out when they're out of ammo, right? So a couple 45s on Taskmaster, revolvers, okay, let's not joke around. Those are done pretty quick. Let alone they're powerful, but they're still whatever, right?
Yeah.
So next on the list, we've got Deathstroke. He's got, sometimes he carries an SMG or two, and then he's got, revolvers strapped to the legs, etc., machine pistols, whatever. Okay. Taskmaster's equipped to handle somebody shooting at him, right?
Yeah, he's got a steel-shaped shield that's like Captain America's. It's not made of vibranium.
Yeah, but will handle bullets.
Yeah, more or less. Yeah, he can, and I think that's where also, Slade's just taking it to the chest and being like, whatever. Like,
so that was going to be my next point. So you mentioned Taskmaster's shield. Okay, good blocking capability, etc., whatever. If he carries it on the back like a turtle, he can use it as a blocking mechanism as he's fighting, stuff like that. Slade Wilson, Deathstroke's got probably the ultimate, what you would want to have if you're in any scuffle ever, in a energy absorption, badass armor suit. That's also eye candy, which doesn't hurt. That's I don't want to call that a trump card, but it's darn close. It's a good feature for him, and
sure,
well for his side of the fight. So if this has any longevity towards it, that's gonna keep him tip top as opposed to the other side of the ring being Taskmaster. So that's a major advantage there. Next on the list, what do we got, Jimmy? Let's not get into abilities. But
yeah. So after the guns, the bow and arrow, the trick weapon or the trick arrows and stuff, which I still don't know if anything would really be there that would really take out Deathstroke. And we get to the swords and stuff. We're talking. Deathstroke's known to have his bow staff, which he can actually like fire like lasers and stuff out of. It gets really weird. So he'd have that, but I would think it was either that or he'd use, his two swords, which sometimes katanas, sometimes like ninjato. They're like some of the straight, blade, but kind of what he prefers a lot of the time.
So the bow and arrow, I think, is a good advantage for Taskmaster, and that, especially if they're trick arrows. Deathstroke's not always going to know, okay, what arrow is this? What's it going to do? What's
that's
ability?
Yeah.
So that could catch him off guard. I mean, Deathstroke could be like, okay, an arrow, I know he's going to shoot for this. Well, you don't really know. He could shoot for something totally different than you're thinking, because that arrow's made to, expel a gas or something, or this one's, a flashbang, stuff like that. So that's an unpredictable, rudimentary but unpredictable weapon. What takes it from rudimentary bow and arrow to a class A weapon is that you've got the trick arrows. So that's something that I don't think you can be 9, 10, 15, 20 steps ahead, but you're never going to know what that arrow does. Or the most you'll get out of it is if you're quick enough, you'll see where he's going to shoot.
Yep, and that forces the fight to close range because he would see that, and he would either probably get flashbanged earlier with an arrow or something, and he'd be like, screw this. And either Taskmaster would move in for the kill, or he would be like, I'm just going to get in to get to him. Like, one way or the other, they're getting close to each other, right? Because they're just like, this isn't working. That's where I start to think if they do end up using like their swords and things, or if they stop using that and it's hand-to-hand, that's where I think it starts to turn into Deathstroke's favor if it's early. Because if it goes on longer, then yeah, Taskmaster will start to see the moves. But then it's like, well, will Deathstroke look at that and be like, I know you're predicting my moves now. I'm gonna do something crazy, and he'll do like some sort of elbow move. But like whatever hit that is, I feel like that's gonna be like a like moment for Taskmaster where it's gonna knock the wind out of him because he's gonna be like, this guy hits like a freaking truck, you know. And then right before he can do anything, that's when a knife or a sword is right in the throat, you know, or something. It's just like right there, and it's like
Totally.
can't move.
Major problem for Taskmaster. And also once it gets close, I don't care what kind of swords you're using. Think about this. Taskmaster has one, kind of like, what do you call it? Full hilt sword.
Yep.
Double bladed. And then you've got Deathstroke that's got, the more Japanese style, katana, if you will. So dual, which gives you more possibilities for hits. On top of that, Deathstroke has the armor and the added strength. Eventually, at close range like that, hand to hand, I don't care what the hell Taskmaster's, mimicking, it's gonna end.
Sure,
and probably not in the favor of Taskmaster. And I don't mean to get to the conclusion quickly, but I think there's a couple advantages there that we pointed out. So. Looks good for our buddy Deathstroke.
Sure, it would be cool because it's like you have Eastern style versus Western style. That's one thing that would be really neat to see because Taskmaster would be using a shield and a sword, so he would probably be trying to block and stuff, and that goes in his favor because he wants to have more time, and that shield buys him time, so he could be like, okay, the problem is Deathstroke has so many things going on. If you're like, okay, I know how he shoots guns, they're like, okay, now I know how he uses swords, but now how does he use hand-to-hand? So like he's kind of always moving the fight along, which like when you're fighting Spider-Man, like for instance when Taskmaster has, it's like, okay, he's the web stuff and the hand-to-hand stuff, and that's it. Like usually, unless he's gonna like, pull like a sewer grate or whatever that would be. But it's like, okay, I know these things, but Deathstroke's always kind of like, he has like one more thing, it seems like, where he's like, okay, you don't know this about me, you don't know this about me. And then also looking at the guy, you don't know, like, he's got that, he's really packing some physicality underneath all that armor. Like, if he hits you, you'd be like, "Wah!" Like,
I mean, period, the intelligence of Deathstroke is, and they're both intelligent, don't get me wrong, but I mean, that's kind of what Deathstroke is, capped on the top of the pyramid for. But Taskmaster has a shield. Deathstroke is a walking shield. He doesn't have to worry about one more attachment. He is that.
Yeah.
Because of his armor that he wears or his suit. So he's more mobile. He doesn't need to think about that one additional thing. It frees him up to do other things, which you're saying and reinforcing the same thought, and that Deathstroke's coming at you with so much, while Taskmaster's got to think about, I got to block that, where, if Taskmaster's even getting a blow in, Deathstroke's already able to do that as he's attacking because it's, he doesn't have to worry if he gets hit. I'm not saying, Taskmaster might get a hit in with that sword and find a soft spot in the armor, like at a joint, and just lop his arm off. That could happen, but
yeah.
I think Deathstroke's able to, he knows those things, so a lot of advantages pointing to Deathstroke, and I don't know. Need we say more?
Yeah.
That?
Yeah, I think we kind of know. Again, this could be different, quite different, and it is kind of close in some respects. I think if Taskmaster had more time, I think if he had the prep time, if he knew Deathstroke was coming, he'd be like, okay, I know how to counter all this stuff because I've watched it and I know it. But coming in hot like this is such a disadvantage for him specifically, where Deathstroke's like, I'm already at this level, and like Taskmaster's kind of like here, but if he had more time, he might be equal or higher.
Balance the scales, and think about that. You really touched on it there. If you have more time to prepare, neither of them have that time to prepare for anything in this circumstance. But when they talk about Taskmaster, that's the thing. Anytime he ever encounters anyone, he's already prepared for them, and the only time he loses is because somebody he hasn't seen showed up.
Yeah, or he just takes on too much, and it's like, dude.
Well, so he took on the entire team of Avengers, and for a little while held his own fairly well. And then there was one hero, and I forget who it was, but it was from one of the old original Avengers comics, and this hero, it was a female hero, I think, showed up, and that's what helped trump him and bring the Avengers to victory and overtake him. he hadn't prepared for them, didn't know about that character. So historically, I mean, what you're saying is spot on. So I think that's the major kink in the armor for Taskmaster in this circumstance. Our mano a mano is that there is no prep time. The gates open and you see each other. That's all the prep you get.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. And I think you kind of said it really well there too. It makes me think of Batman, and Taskmaster is kind of like Batman of Marvel if Batman decided to run like a murder school. And I think that's the problem. It's like you can do all this prep, you can do all this stuff, but at the end of the day, even Deathstroke has beaten up Batman a few times hand to hand, which is like that's kind of like the bar to be held. And if Taskmaster and Batman are kind of similar, I'm not saying they're exactly the same. I'm just saying that like that puts another point in Deathstroke's favor. It's like he's fought Batman a few times. He's like beat the crap out of him. It's like that's a pretty big feat to do that to Batman.
Well, and flat out, why would DC go and create? Why would they create an appealing supervillain that doesn't carry any weight?
Yeah. He carries them up. And the funny thing too is that like if you guys remember here in the beginning, like the height and weight for both these guys almost identical. Like it's pretty crazy how close it is. It's like, okay, as opposed to a lot of these other fights we've had where it's like 100, 200 pound difference on some of these dudes, and you're like, oh my god, or like Sauron's like 9 feet tall, and you're like, what the heck? Like it's like okay.
Yeah.
Good times. Yeah. But I think we're gonna say right now for this specific circumstance that our winner is Deathstroke. Again, I know it seems like the dude with the Deathstroke picture. Well, it's so funny that Deathstroke won, but I hope that makes sense, like our logic. And again, this specific scenario, if they were like an abandoned city and Taskmaster had like a month or two to prep, this might be a completely different fight. Like I don't know if Deathstroke would.
Yeah, I
win,
mean, I totally pick Deathstroke just because he looks cooler. I mean,
it's mostly looks
good. Looking good's fighting good. Am I right?
Yeah, you got that orange and that black. You know, the white's like, but like Deathstroke's ready for Halloween constantly.
Yeah.
Like, you know, that's pretty nice. Yeah. Well, thank you for everybody who's watched this. I know we got on a few little tangents there. It's kind of like our weekly podcast, which you guys should check out too. But I do want to thank the one and only Stephen Purifoy. He does these for us. We kind of work together on this, and we are supported via him to do these. So please go check him out over on Twitter. I'll have a link down below because you should go look at all of his stuff. It's really, really good. And
show a little support.
Show some support.
Nicely done, Stephen. All these have been amazing. So.
Stephen, you're a lovely individual, and I'm so thrilled like that we get to work with you and Yorin, our other artist who does pretty much all the art you see here. And like it's so cool to have these people who want to work with us. Like it's like they're so talented. Like Joe, you're a pretty good artist, but even you're like, yeah, look at this. Like
I've never put a lot of time and effort into my art. It's always just been a thing that I dabble with, and I'd like to think I'm pretty good at it. And if I would have continued in school for it, I'd probably be really good at it. But when I look at what they're doing, with Steven and Yorin are doing, it's like it's next level stuff, and just. It is not, what's the word? We don't take it for granted that they work with us. It's pretty cool stuff, and it kind of puts an aura around critical reviews, right? It's kind of signatory, that style, and I think it's nice. So really appreciate it, guys, and
yeah. Thank you. Yes. So Stephen _Purifoy, by the way, for people who are just listening, go check him out on Twitter. Really good stuff all the time. And also this matchup was actually picked by our patrons at our $10 tier. So if you're interested in supporting us and the channel and these artists too, please go over there and throw us a buck if you can. But to $10, basically what we do is we'll throw out, like for this one, I put out Deathstroke and I gave a few different options for who he could fight, and Taskmaster was chosen. And I hope you guys enjoyed this too. I try to put in some like video game stuff when I can. This isn't always going to work, but with these two guys, I do have footage for both. So like I could put that over the top of us talking, which is really nice. That doesn't always work out because not every one of these people we talk about fighting, it's like, I guess I could get Sauron footage, but it's like Lord of the Rings Conquest is a while ago. But yeah, if you guys like that sort of thing, we might try to like kind of curtail some of these to that, because it's kind of fun, I think, to have that visual to see the fighting prowess of these guys. And
absolutely.
Like, okay.
And ultimately, I think this was a really good mano a mano. It was really fun to talk about each of them. I mean, Deathstroke, maybe because you're such a fan, Jimmy, I was a little more in the know on him and his abilities. But he's maybe a little more popular. It was fun to learn about a character I really knew nothing about because he hasn't been featured as much or as high profile as other villains in the Marvel universe. So it was fun, and they were a very good cohesive matchup.
Yeah,
appropriate.
I want to see that fight. Like,
yeah,
I want to see.
Yeah, like in my mind, I'm playing out a movie, and just like snippets, like a flip book. But
yeah, I want to see that. Come on. Also, I think with Mysterio popping up in Far From Home for Spider-Man, I think it's really open season on any villain for Marvel, and I think it's not going to be super soon, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Taskmaster show up eventually. So it's good to know this stuff now, especially that he was in the Spider-Man game. It's like, okay, who's this guy? We should know about this guy. So yeah, cool. Well, Joe, thank you for being here, for talking about this with me. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you, Jimmy. I don't know if they'll see me at this point, but doing the little yes, thank you.
Yes, arigato. Yes, and thank you to all of our lovely Legionnaires. If you're supporting us, like I said, on Patreon, or if you want to support us on Spreadshirt, you can get a shirt over there. Or if you're just donating your time, listening to us, sharing us around, that helps a bunch. Love you guys so much, and until the next time, well, remember to adapt and overcome.